Chase Thomas podcast. My nephew needs me to record. See, I already hate it. I hate it.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Chase Thomas podcast, where I'm still the aforementioned Chase Thomas, coming to you live from Knoxville, Tennessee. Everything School HQ, still undefeated. The Atlanta Falcons, still undefeated. Nice football watching weekend with the Florida Gators ahead and the Green Bay Packers, who looked really good on the docket for the Falcons on Sunday. So big weekend coming up, but a great start to my dual NFL and college football watching experience, and to talk all things NFL, as we do at this time each and every week, the NFL Super Friends on a Tuesday. For your listening pleasure, JP Acosta is here of SBNation.com. JP, good evening. How are you?
Doing great. You know, three of our favorite NFL teams on here are undefeated. You know, that's a great feeling, you know, having an undefeated NFL team. That's wild,
I highly recommend it.
It's great.
I'm not going to lie. I recommend it.
It's a fun time. Also here, the sad boy himself. Well, I guess there's two sad boys, because Evan also likes emo, and he had a good emo listening weekend that we'll get into. But
I literally have a jersey that says sad boy on the back. I think I get the title.
You do get the title. Okay. Sad boy Jace. It's USA Today, the Pump Fake, many other places behind the steel curtain. He's got his hand just holding his face up because he's going through it. It's Mr. Jarrett Bailey. Jarrett, good evening. How are you?
I am going through it. It's been a rough 48 hours, 36-ish hours. But yeah, not my favorite weekend. None of my bets hit. The Steelers stink. It's been a rough one, but it's lovely to see all of you.
Also here, a happy man because Brock Purdy showed why he was the one that Kyle Shanahan bet on this offseason and was like, we're riding with Purdy. Feeling Purdy, mighty Purdy over there in San Francisco, and that high-powered offense, a healthy Christian McCaffrey, and a defense that just, it doesn't matter who's going to be the DC, maybe potentially. They could just keep swapping dudes out every year. They're just going to keep hitting the crap out of people and being really, really elite and really, really good at what they do. It's Mr. Evan Sowards. Evan, good evening. How are you?
I'm good. I'm really good. I have no voice from going to emo night on Friday, and the 49ers won football game. I feel like this is a good weekend for me.
What did you yell more? Did you yell more at emo night or yell more during the 49ers game?
Oh, emo night. It wasn't even close. In fact, the Niners game, as we all know and we'll talk about, was pretty mild. Kind of chilling. I'm not even saying that to be mean.
He's talking about a nice little brunch.
Evan said he had the rest of the day after the first quarter just do anything else.
He's like, I've seen enough. This is nice. What a nice day.
I will say this about that entire thing. It did give me the opportunity to quote both Motionless in White and the Amity Affliction and two of my columns these past couple of days. So, I mean, that's my silver lining in all of this.
I feel like you've been training for this your whole life.
Oh, dude, as soon as I saw the opportunity, I jumped on it. It will only pop a very specific niche who reads it, but it will pop them, and that makes me happy.
I love that. Well, we're going to get into our teams and what ultimately happened here each and every week during this NFL season to kick things off, because everyone knows what the NFL Super Friends and where their allegiances lie. Let's start with the positives and give Jarrett a break here on the Steelers front. It will combine Evan because it involved his team as well. JP.
Positive for me?
Well, I mean, you got to watch a lot of football. You got to see some positives.
Okay,
George Pickens got to... I mean, he's liking things on Instagram
Chase,
again.
Just leave it. Let it be. Listen to the Beatles, bro. Let it be.
I believe you. I don't think I've ever heard that song from the beginning to end. JP, the Jaguars survive. Anthony Richardson goes down late. Tank Bigsby and Travis Etienne look pretty good as a 1-2 duo. Calvin Ridley scores first for the Jags, which hurt my feelings seeing Calvin Ridley thrive in another system on another team, while my wide receiver room looks, let me check my notes here, less than ideal, but maybe not.
It's
really
not the
mattering
receiver room. That's the problem.
Not great, Bob.
No, But JP, what was your biggest takeaway from the Jags winning on the road in Indianapolis to start things off?
Good teams find a way to win. And the Jaguars are a good team. They found a way defensively to figure out how to stifle the Indianapolis offense. Offensively, it still feels kind of weird that we're saying, like, yeah, the offense didn't play that great. Like, there were a lot of points, a lot of yards left on the field, and they scored 31 points. Like, that's just a wild thing to say about the Jaguars now. Like, the Trevor Lawrence, Calvin Ridley thing is special. Like, that is one of the best – that's going to be one of the best duos in the league this year, one of the best connections in the league. You can already tell Trevor Lawrence already has a lot of confidence in him. The throws that he was making yesterday, man, that is, like, some primo, like, top 5 quarterback throws.
Here, JP, this is what I want to know, because I feel like a lot of people talk about the Trevor Lawrence situation and, like, almost, like, too subtly. I want to hear it from a fan. He's supposed to be the prince who was promised, right? Like, he's supposed to be one of the best quarterbacks to come out of college in the last 30, 40, 50 years. It sounds like we might already be there. How high are you on Trevor Lawrence now? 1 to 10 scale.
So I'll say this. Before the season, a group of friends and I did quarterback rankings. I think I had Trevor Lawrence around 4 or 5. Anybody from 3, 4, 5, 6 is very interchangeable.
Right.
Trevor Lawrence might be in the 3, 4, 5 area. Like, he's a top 5 quarterback. The accuracy, the ball placement in the intermediate areas of the field, it is insane. There's a throw that he makes to Calvin Ridley for a 14-yard gain on the move between 2 Colts defenders, and I think it fakes out the camera. The cameraman thinks it's intercepted, but Calvin Ridley catches that ball and turns it into a first down. That's just a special throw. The touchdown to Zay Jones was a special throw. If you see when he released the ball and where Zay Jones was and where that ball ends up, insane throw. I think I'm going to watch it on loop. He's a special quarterback, man. He's a top 5 quarterback. And it's kind of crazy saying that, like, the Jaguars have a top 5 quarterback, because that doesn't really happen. That's never happened. So it's exciting. It's fun. Kind of next week is probably the biggest game for the Jaguars since, like, the AFC Championship in 2017. Like, this is the biggest game. It's probably the biggest home game ever. Defending champions, you get them at home. This is to put up or shut up game. This is exciting.
Did it feel like to you with Richardson? I think I texted y'all this while I'm out and just taking my notes on the Falcons. I was the only Falcons fan at this sports bar I go to here in Knoxville, because there aren't a lot of Falcons fans here in the city, and I'm just doing my thing, taking notes and everything. And this thing I jotted down and sent to you guys was just that, like, I have the Texans on in my peripheral vision while the Falcons are going on, and it didn't really look like CJ Stroud had that great of a day. And I think we talked about before the year, the odds of Stroud, Lawrence, and Richardson all being long-term solutions at quarterback in the AFC South is pretty unlikely, because you just don't see that. Usually it's like it's 2 guys in a division that fight over it for years to come, and it's just really hard to have that kind of sustainability and hit on that many quarterbacks in one division over the long haul. For me, when I was watching Anthony Richardson, it did feel like to me, watching that game and watching the back and forth, that, oh, we found the new long-term quarterback battle in the AFC South, and it's going to be Richardson and Lawrence from here on out. Did you get that same impression from what you saw from Richardson?
I did not, but I also think everybody needs to pump the brakes on the rookie quarterbacks. They all looked fine. They looked fine. CJ Stroud looked fine. I think there are a lot of rough spots for that team because they're just not ready to compete yet. Like, they played one of the best teams in the AFC in the Ravens, and you could tell that there was a difference in talent. So
what did you see from Anthony Richardson? Because I didn't get to watch the game. What were, like, the biggest positives?
So the biggest positives are, you can tell there's a proof of concept. There is something that they want to get done. It is very much going to look like, I guess, very early in the season, it's going to look like 2021 Jalen Hurts Philadelphia Eagles. Whole lot of RPOs, whole lot of rollouts, maybe the occasional deep pass, whole lot of run game. The Colts in the red zone are going to be really fun to watch. They shifted into a real nice touchdown. that Anthony Richardson got a good run on. He's throwing really nice passes in the short areas. I think there's still some footwork issues that mess with his accuracy and his ball placement. And then he threw the interception, which, I think Michael Pittman ran the wrong route. And it was also a great play by Tyson Campbell. But I do think everybody needs to pump the brakes. I think none of the guys looked bad. None of the guys looked like they were going to light the world on fire. They're rookies. They had some good moments. They had some rookie mistakes. I think the same thing applies for Anthony Richardson.
I like it. Also, that happened on Sunday afternoon in my peripheral vision was, the Niners just scored again. Kenny Pickett just threw a pick.
Okay.
What's going on in Pittsburgh? Because
let me talk to Jarrett first. And not the way that you thought, but I am serious. I as a fan. So what was really interesting to me about the Pittsburgh Steelers offseason and everything like that, it's like, I didn't think that the Steelers ended the season last season bad. I didn't think that necessarily they played really poorly. I thought Kenny Pickett might not have done too much exciting stuff for the type of momentum they had this offseason. But really, people were talking about the Steelers as if they were really going to make some noise this season. We all know week 1 doesn't guarantee the rest of the season, but arguably they got rolled on. Do you think that the hype was too much, or was this just they played a really good team?
I think it's a little bit of both. The last time I remember them getting bounced that bad in week 1, I want to say it was 2011. They went to Baltimore, Ben threw 3 picks. They lost 35-7 to the Ravens.
Would you say this is Mike Tomlin's worst regular season loss?
It's his worst home opening loss in the Mike Tomlin era. It's the most lopsided home opening loss in the Mike Tomlin era. So it's certainly up there. And I don't know, when you look at everything that went, here's how the Steelers' first 5 drives went: 3 and out, interception, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. That was their offense, the first 5 drives. They got a touchdown at the end of the first half, but the 49ers, they were definitely playing a lot more conservative on that final drive. There's like, let's just get this to halftime. And then the Steelers got down the field, Pickett threw a touchdown to Pat Freiermuth. You think, all right, maybe it's 27. They'll need a stop to come out of the half because they got the ball first. But if they can do that, maybe they can do something else. All hopes that immediately had their throat slit when Christian McCaffrey ran for a 65-yard touchdown. And then, which,
by the way, that was like a Madden-esque touchdown run. Like that,
it was
a spin move.
It was a beautiful
touchdown. That
touchdown.
spin move was absurd.
The entire run itself and the receivers blocking downfield, very reminiscent of Garrison Hurst's run against the Jets in week 1 in overtime. That's what it reminded me of. I think it was 1998, 99. But yeah, Steelers, in terms of everything that they did, TJ Watt had 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles or fumble recovery, tackle for loss. Anthony McFarland looked really good in the return game, and then the other 51 sucked. All of them were bad. I mean, Allen Robinson had a few nice catches. Calvin Austin had some nice flashes. None of them did anything to change the outcome of the game. Pat Freiermuth didn't do anything of importance outside of that touchdown catch. If you look at one of the first plays from the first drive, they run like a little jet pitch to Calvin Austin. Pat Freiermuth looks lost. He doesn't know what the hell's going on. He doesn't know he's supposed to block. He's turned around. Calvin Austin turns it into only a 1-yard loss. It could have been like a 6-yard loss. But I think that was an omen of things to come where, they look this lost this early against this defense. And then Pickett, that second interception that he threw to Hufanga, it's double coverage. He's got Allen Robinson coming in on a dig who's open. And he says, nope, double coverage. We'll see what happens. And then he gets picked off by an all-pro safety, as you would in that situation. And then he gift wrapped the third interception to Fred Warner that Fred Warner dropped. I think that in terms of everything with Pickett, they saw the same thing that I've been saying. They look at, yes, the big comeback drive against the Raiders, the big comeback drive against the Ravens. Okay, he was horrible for the first 57 minutes of both of those games. And yes, it was cool to see that he has, maybe he's got that little bit of a clutch gene in him. That's awesome. You know what else would be even more awesome? If he didn't have to do it every damn game because he plays well throughout. He hasn't done that yet. And they got nice. Cleveland next Monday night at home. They're staring at 0-2 right now. Do I think that they lose it? I'm leaning no, because the Browns look bad too. This feels like a more of a burn the tape game type situation. I don't think the Steelers are going to play that bad again, but my God, man, there was almost nothing positive to take from that.
So you know what this game kind of felt like as I was watching it, like on the quad box thing. This felt like, those old Looney Tunes commercials where Wile E. Coyote is like running and he thinks he's like running on like he's running on solid ground. And then he looks down and he's just on air. And he looks down, looks back up, and he holds up a sign that just says help. And he falls.
Yeah.
That's exactly what this game felt
Yeah.
like. Like from the jump, this was not like, I think on the first drive, Fred Warner both takes away the shallow route, then takes away the sit route by Pat Fryermuth, which leads to a sack because Kenny Pickett's like, those are my only two options on this play. And he took away both of them. Then the next drive, he absolutely destroys Najee Harris. And that game is over. Like the game is over at that.
That I
He
gotta
came
say,
in untouched on that too. I don't know what happened on that read, but Warner came in untouched.
So what happened was Javon Hargrave basically held up two blockers. Samalo, it was an outside zone. Javon Hargrave holds up two blockers. Samalo can't get to Fred Warner, who's also really freaking fast. And he just comes downhill and destroys Najee Harris. Like it's from that point, like watching the film, I'm like, okay, we know what type of time this game is on. Like it's very clear
But there
which
was another
team
play.
is the good team.
There was another play that Hargrave disrupted too because the Steelers ran play action and Kenny was turning back around coming off the boot. And Hargrave's in his face. He has to break out to his right. He's got Calvin Austin coming across on a crosser, and there's no one there. Pickett doesn't see it because he's running right. And the 49ers defensive line, we know how good they are, but that was a pure example of like absolute peak disruption that they could put on a team. I don't think the Steelers are as bad as what they put on tape, but my God, man, if they don't fix a lot of that next week, they're going to be 0-2.
I think that's the biggest thing. Like the Steelers aren't bad. The Niners are just really freaking good. Like the offense, again, it didn't really do much different. It's just everybody's still just as good. Like Brandon Ayuk,
the offense
absurd.
The offense
that
is just
first
really,
drive,
the offense is more efficient.
Well, that first drive, Brandon Ayuk, Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, all were a part of that drive. Like everyone got the ball and in their own unique way. Deebo got at the ball, broke a couple tackles. Kittle got the ball down on the left sideline like he loves to do and just tanked a couple people, right? Ayuk had a great pass, or great catch across the middle. Like it was just like Kyle Shanahan came out to be like, I have all the Infinity Stones now. Watch what I want to do. And throughout the entire game, he did what he wanted to do. And it's insane to me at this point because you look at it and it's like you go through the offense and we talk about the offensive skill position players. You talk about the offensive line with, having Trent Williams. But then it's like you go to the defensive side of the ball. Javon Hargrave, who they signed this year in the offseason, had 5 pressures and a sack.
Cleveland Farrell played awesome.
Cleveland Farrell, the new Chris Kosirik project. But like you would think, even though Bosa came off, signing the contract extension, making him the highest paid defensive player, you would have thought that Bosa would be the person. But the person that ended up being most dominant from a sack perspective was the guy that no one would have expected that from the 49ers fan perspective, which was Drake Jackson, the second-year player out of USC, the speed rusher that was meant to complement Bosa. And it just goes to show you what we knew was going to happen, especially when they got Hargrave. It's like you can't, whether you're on the offense or defensive side of the ball, you have to pick. Normally, you can't even pick anymore. You can't pick who you want to defend anymore. You will leave someone open. And whether it's on the defensive side of the ball and you want to double team Bosa or you're getting, Javon Kinlaw with like 13 snaps was eating double teams and was being a very productive pass rusher. Like the 49ers, I want to get it out of the way. I don't care about the Eagles. I don't care about the Chiefs. I don't care. Barring injuries, the 49ers are winning the Super Bowl this year. Period. And I do think that week ones are weird always. I do think the first 3 weeks of the season they don't really tell the story, right? You always see a lot of weird stuff. But what did I say all offseason? I don't know that Brock Purdy can continue to do what he did. What he did was so incredible. The throws that he was able to make, this, the second plays, like being able to make plays happen on his feet, the confidence that it took. I didn't really know if that was possible. I talked to you guys all offseason. I was like, it would be hard to accept that the person that every team passed on 7 rounds is going to be able to recreate that magic again. JP, he did it. He did it again. He's the same quarterback. He might be better.
I don't know, man. He can't keep getting away with it, but he probably can because Kyle Shanahan just always knows where your weakness is. The Steelers, for addressing as much as they did to address the middle linebacker spot, still aren't that good there.
Still not good.
So what Kyle Shanahan did was basically put Cole Holcomb and Elandon Roberts into the 9th circle of hell for the entire game. Like, I felt so bad. So there was one play, I think Ayuk went for like 22 yards, and they motioned out to empty. George Kittle's running down the seam. Cole Holcomb has got to carry George Kittle. They got two people guarding George Kittle because it's George freaking Kittle. So then you have Christian McCaffrey in the slot. He runs a short route, the low part of the high-low, and then Brandon Ayuk is running behind you. What are you going to do? You either give up the short route and yak opportunity to
you
Christian
just throw
McCaffrey,
up, really,
or you let Brandon Ayuk run for 22 yards behind you.
A lot of people wanted to talk about how Patrick Peterson got
Brandon
burned.
Ayuk had
He did. Patrick Peterson, honestly, like watching him play, I was like, he's fighting for his life. He was trying his hardest. It wasn't like he was playing bad.
He did not have
catches about 29 for Brandon Ayuk.
He didn't have Patrick Peterson did not have the facilities to be out there.
No.
The first touchdown, it looked like he slipped on a banana in Mario Kart.
It reminded me of Little
so
Giants. It reminded me of Little Giants when the Cowboys player is running and the little kid's like holding on to the white jersey for dear life.
Like, look, exactly, man, you getting dunked on like repeatedly. Like, they went after you said like, yeah, I can get an interception off these guys. Dog, you got to hang it up. Hang it up. It's time to go. But Brandon Ayuk, just fantastic player. Like, he is legitimately their wide receiver one.
He's finally here. He's here. We've been waiting.
When they want to throw the ball downfield, they go to Brandon Ayuk. Deebo Samuel is great. He is not the downfield receiver. Brandon Ayuk is the downfield receiver. Like that, they needed that.
8 catches, $129 for Ayuk yesterday. Yeah, they didn't have an answer for him. And it's not like the offense was like bombs away or anything. We know that's not what they are. They were just incredibly efficient. If it was 3rd and 6, they got 8. If it was 3rd and 9, they got 12. Christian McCaffrey ran the ball for 7 yards a carry. It was annoying. It was annoying as a fan of the other team to just constantly be like, all right, 3rd down. Nope, they're still on the field. All right, another 3rd down. They can't get off the field. Not to mention the fact Cam Hayward goes down with a groin. He's going to be gone up to 2 months. DeMarvin Leal went out this game. Deontay Johnson went out this game. Everything that could have gone wrong for the Steelers went wrong.
And could I do something positive though, Jarrett? What? If you were like, okay, you're talking to Steelers Nation now. You're talking to the comments section at Behind the Steel Curtain. They're looking to you for optimism. They're looking for you to explain how this is not a big deal. That don't overthink a week 1 loss at home to maybe the best team in the NFL this year. Most complete, potentially. How do you sell it? What is the best sell you can do for Pittsburgh Nation after week 1?
The best I could do in terms of like trying to calm everybody down would be look at the Bengals, look at the Chiefs, especially look at the Bengals. Stay in division because last year the Bengals started off 0-2 and were within plays of making it to their 2nd consecutive Super Bowl. Right now, the Bengals, Joe Burrow just threw the ball for 82 yards and they didn't get in the end zone against the Browns. So, yes, it's incredibly frustrating to have the expectations that Steelers fans did, myself included, going into this game, and for it to all fall apart the way it did. But there's precedent for worse starts and deep playoff runs. Right now, do they look like a team that can do that? Absolutely not. But you got a division opponent, Monday Night Football, week 2. at home. Like, when's the last time they had? I can't tell you the last time the Steelers started off with 2 games at home. And if they go down 0-2, losing 2 games at home, one of them in division, while the Browns would be 2-0, 2 up in the division, I mean, that would be as close to being wraps for a team in week 2 as you could get. So it's not over, but this one is as close to a must-win as a week 2 game can get.
Ooh, JP, this is your moment. What did Jarrett just say?
What did he just say? You talking about?
You talked about his whole banger. He said it's not over.
Yes, it's not over. That's the first thing I thought of when he said it. I was like, oh, Daughtry song, banger.
Yeah.
It's a good
Absolute
callback.
banger. Absolute banger.
On the bright side, Steelers don't have to play the Niners again. Don't have to worry about that problem.
That is another positive
You
thing.
don't
That
have
is
to
by
worry
far
about that.
By far their toughest opponent of the year. It's out of the way.
Yeah, get it out of the way, burn the tape, move on. The only thing that I want to ask for my own fantasy purposes is Nahi and the Patrick, the tight end. Is there hope?
Talk about Fryermuth?
Fryer?
Yeah, I'm not
Yeah,
trying to say
Freiermuth.
that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Fryer.
You don't have to play
Fryer-
the Niners again. So
Darnell
Fryermuth-
looks like a big dude. He looks like he's going to be a player.
Darnell's going to be in there.
I know.
for
I'm
most of
talking
the
about
offense.
my fantasy players, Chase. Come on.
Oh, I thought that was just a general. I didn't know you actually
No.
meant fantasy implications.
Yeah.
I was just thinking you're okay.
Yeah,
never
no,
mind.
I'm talking about my fantasy football
Okay.
players. Should I
The
be
thing
getting
with
rid
this-
of these guys?
The thing with Najee is like they got down 17-0 in the first quarter. It's not like they could really run the ball. I think he had 6 carries for 31 yards. You can't really run the ball at that point. Fryermuth, and he's going to be the vertical tight end. He's not really much of a blocker, as was very evident on Sunday. So, if you feel confident in the fact that they'll not play that poor again, then yeah, they're fine. But offensive line's got a lot of improving to do, especially in the run game. But like we said, that's by far the toughest defense they'll face all year. But now they've got to deal with Myles Garrett, who just had a really nice game against Cincinnati. That entire defense had a really nice game against Cincinnati, man. So shout out to the Browns defense for an excellent performance. Now the Steelers got to go play them. So I don't know, man. If they win that game, my confidence would be much higher, just regardless of how they do it. It's AFC North football. It's going to be 2 teams that are going to try to run the ball, 2 good defenses. I don't care how they do it. It's going to be low scoring. Get the job done.
Okay. I like it. The biggest overreaction to week 1 is what for you, JP? Your biggest one that you're still thinking about, that you know it's an overreaction, but it's just you can't escape this take. You can't escape the capital T take.
Jordan Love is capital G good.
Ooh.
Look, man, I'm telling you, I'm not saying he's Aaron Rodgers. He's not Aaron Rodgers. But some of the stuff he was doing was reminiscent of number 12 for the Packers, who used to do the same thing. The little sidearm
that
passes,
throw to Dobbs in the end zone.
the Romeo Dobbs pass where he calls the play off and throws the fade. That was basically what Aaron Rodgers did for the entire Packers career. That was his bread and butter. He looked awesome. He was really good. I think there are a few throws where he kind of wanted to have back. I think there was one deep down the sideline where he was like, oh, I can hit this throw. And then he goes and tries to make it and it overthrows it. But look, man, they might have been onto something. Jordan Love might actually be capital G good.
Which is kind of scary because the Falcons have Jordan Love coming this upcoming week.
Oh, can I say something real quick about the Falcons?
No, you don't have to.
I'm going to.
Oh, okay.
Arthur Smith, figure it the fuck out. I don't care. Desmond Ridder had more catches than Drake London. Figure it out. I don't care that you ran for 130 yards on a light box Vic Fangio style defense without Vic Fangio. Figure it out. Desmond Ridder threw for 91 yards.
What are they going to do? What is there to figure out? He's not a good quarterback.
Kyle Pitts had 3 targets. Throw the ball to him. It doesn't matter. Find a way to get them the ball. If you're such a good offensive mastermind, if you're the offensive genius that everybody wanted you to be, if you're the offensive mastermind everybody thought you were in Tennessee, the reason you got hired as the head coach of the Atlanta freaking Falcons, you better know how to design plays and get your best players the ball. The run game looked really good. The stuff they did personnel-wise was really cool. You better figure it out with Desmond Ridder. You put all the chips into this guy, and you better figure it out because the Packers, coming into town next week, they're not going to let you run the ball like that. I think they're going to be very good at defending the run. You better figure it out, especially up front. Offensive line, figure it out. Desmond Ridder, figure it out.
For bettors out there listening to this, Packers Falcons opened up as a pick'em next week. So I mean that's a great value on the Green Bay Packers.
I will say, as someone who watched this game, you what?
I'm taking the Packers.
Great. No one asked, Evan. And then
well, no one. Who's going to ask? It's not a question that needs an answer. Everyone's going to take the Packers.
You can take the Packers. What I am saying, okay, I'll say this. Watch as someone who watched from beginning to end, I suspect that Panthers Falcons was not on from beginning to end for you three gentlemen here. So here's the thing. I've been critical of the targets. Smith was asked about it. He's like, your fantasy football team is not of my concern. Essentially, I'm paraphrasing there a bit.
Dumbass answer, by the way.
But I understand what he's saying. And I talked about this in the Atlanta Sports Guys tonight, which is these are questions more for Terry Fontenot, not for Arthur Smith, because Arthur Smith is not the ultimate decider here in these picks. Hold on, let me get through all of this. This is a complicated matter. It's team building. There's ways about all of this where Kyle Shanahan runs into this problem sometimes where he plays the best guys. He worked out with Brock Purdy. It didn't work out with Trey Lance. The front office traded up for Trey Lance. He still found a way. Arthur Smith is going to win a lot of football games playing it his way. Now, look, there is an issue with certain picks to this point. He hasn't hit on all of them. Terry Fontenot is making these big-time selections. You go Kyle Pitts, you go Bijan Robinson, you go Drake London. It's easy to forget that Drake London was the best rookie receiver last year. Like, Drake London had a great year in this offense.
Maybe they should throw him the ball more.
Well, hold on. Week 1. So what they were doing a lot
that's on
in
Terry
this game,
Fontenot.
The offensive line was tough. The offensive line did not look great here. And I wonder if that's part of it, is Desmond Ridder was getting crushed early. And it was one of those where I wonder, maybe we see more if the offensive line's playing a little bit better, but Brian Burns and Derek Brown were just eating the Falcons' offensive line lunch.
Before we get away from your point, I want to address it. You said it's like the 49ers and Kyle.
I know I should have said
the reason why the reason why we complained about George Kittle blocking all the time was because we wanted to see him, do things that he's really good at doing that we've already seen him do. But there was also 4 other guys on the team that were as good as George Kittle. So it was like, you were just complaining, but realistically, it's like, yeah, get any of these amazing people the ball. Why aren't they giving Kyle Pitts the ball?
Hold on. He had 2 big plays in this game. One of them was called back to penalty. He actually did have 2 explosive plays in this one. The big one down the stretch that everybody saw. Good placement from Ridder, put it in a way where Kyle Pitts could come down with it.
That was not a good. Do you
know how many targets Kyle Pitts had?
That was not a good
3, I think. Total.
He had 3 targets. Do you know what it's like to give Kyle Pitts 3 targets when you don't have Deebo, Ayuk, Christian McCaffrey? Like, that's the whole point. And I think that's what JP's saying. That's at least what I'm saying. It's not like you're fighting for a playoff spot. You're trying to figure your team out. Like, get your players the ball, especially early in the season. 6 targets to Bijan Robinson is just like 10 carries. It's like, I get it. You have a new toy, but like, why didn't Kyle Pitts get that love?
Well, Tyler Algier and Bijan both averaged over 5 yards per carry.
Yeah, the run game looked good.
Yes.
But the thing about the Kyle Shanahan point is, you know what Kyle Shanahan does really well?
What?
He schemes up plays to get his best players the ball.
Well, hold on.
Arthur Smith does not do that.
He did it last year for Drake London. Drake London got the ball a lot last year in this offense.
Would you say that Kyle Pitts blocked a lot against Carolina, especially with Brian Burns? And
Johnny Smith was in a lot. I don't know. And it wasn't really, let me just go ahead and tell you, not a lot of people were blocking Brian Burns in this game.
Nobody blocked Brian Burns. Just going back and watching the film today, nobody blocked Brian Burns. I think Caleb McGarry is going to have nightmares about Brian Burns. And now he has to see Rashawn Gary. So good luck.
Yeah. I'm not really looking forward to that. That all being said, Desmond Ridder hasn't lost a home game in his post-high school career, dating back to Cincinnati and now Atlanta. He's 3-2 as a starter to this point. He doesn't make any turnover-worthy plays. Like he
hold on.
He doesn't. He still hasn't thrown a pick through 5 games as an Atlanta Falcon.
Frankie Louvu dropped the clear one.
No. Perfect placement from Ridder to make sure that he dropped
that one. Other team.
No, he saw the writing on the wall and wanted to make sure that He gave him a little taste of what an interception's like, but not on his watch, not on Dez's watch.
Maybe
And
see the
when I
writing on
say
the wall and get the players on his team the ball, maybe throw it to the guys wearing the black jerseys.
Well, can I say the
Or
biggest
white.
takeaway, the reason that I'm and all Falcons fans feel good no matter what? The upgrade from Ryan Nielsen from Dean Pease was felt in a major way. And I think Dean Pease was a legendary good defensive coordinator. The problem with Dean Pease last year, and to why the Falcons lose this game with Dean Pease versus Nielsen this year, Nielsen's just a dynamite guy on the sideline. Like, he's just getting super high active, defensive line coach for the Saints for many years. And then you have David Onyemata, who had a big day on the defensive line. Grady Jarrett had a big day. Calais Campbell was really good on the edge. Now, the guys behind these guys are awful. Like, there's no depth in the defensive line for the Falcons, but the starters are really good, and they gave Bryce Young a lot of problems. Also, Jesse Bates may have been the best player in the game. At times, Jesse Bates forced 3 turnovers, 1 fumble, 2 picks. His just presence was huge, but this was the most aggressive, dominant Falcons defense I've seen in a really long time, and they gave Bryce a lot of problems. Like, AJ Terrell, one of the best corners in football. Trey Flowers held his own on the opposite side with Jeff Akuta out. Troy Anderson at linebacker was all over the place. I think he's going to be a really good player. And then Richie Grant hits hard, and the Falcons are tackling well. I just think this defense is aggressive and strong, and even with the offensive issues, I'm just not really panicking that much. I think it was clear they're the best team in this division, and I don't think it's particularly close this year, and they're going to walk into 10-11 wins. It was one of the most pleasant, just we're winning 10-11 games this year and hosting a playoff game. It was great. I had a great time. Enjoyed it.
I hate to pour cold water on this, but
You don't have to.
they're not winning 10-11 games. That's not happening.
It's happening.
Like, that's not happening. Like, congratulations on beating the Panthers. Now you'll play a real football team. So,
Well, we'll see how it happens.
Can
The
we get a
Falcons
quick
play well to their
byline?
competition. They play up, generally speaking.
How did Bryce Young look?
Bryce Young looked fine. He was
bad in the middle of the field. He was better rolling out. Like, he was staring down dudes, and Jesse Bates jumped 2 balls where he's just staring right at him in the middle of the field. And most of his completions were over the middle to Hayden Hurst and Terrence Marshall. That was pretty much open, but the sideline stuff wasn't great. And he took some bad sacks. I thought he was going to move around a lot more than he ended up doing.
Well, I think he only took like 2 sacks.
I mean, I thought he took 3. I could be wrong.
He did a pretty good job of navigating pressure and not letting all the pressure turn into sacks. I think there was some cool stuff they did over the middle, like you said. I think he had some points where he was a rookie, like the Jesse Bates interceptions, where he was late over the middle of the field, and he also needs to do more work post snap in terms of keeping Jesse Bates over to one side of the field. Like the first interception to Jesse Bates, Hayden Hurst is running a dig over the middle of the field. It looks like a little levels concept, but Adam Thielen's running on the other side of the field. He's running a little seam route. The seam route comes open, but that's because Jesse Bates is staring directly at Bryce Young, who is not taking his eyes off of this receiver. Maybe what should happen is he looks more over to Thielen, holds the safety over there, then makes the throw. It's just kind of those NFL windows thing. Like,
that Stafford did really well.
Yeah, it's those windows things that's like college speed is not the same as NFL speed. That's that's the takeaway here. I think he looked fine. It wasn't anything like eye-popping, but it wasn't anything like red flag-wise. I do think the Panthers need some serious help at receiver, though. They need somebody who can actually create separation or somebody who Bryce Young trusts in holes of zones, because Terrence Marshall Jr. ain't cutting it.
Yeah.
Marvin Harrison Jr. 2024, baby.
Marvin Harrison be fun in this group, in this offense. I think
maybe they'll use the Bears pick to get him.
Maybe.
Ooh. Chase Claypool. That was fun.
Hilarious.
Hilarious. Jarrett, best quarterback performance over the weekend. Who do you think played the best of any quarterbacks you saw in week 1 here? And who do you think played the worst this week?
Tua Tagovailoa had a fantastic game, man. Fantastic game. And I know I've been kind of like the resident, like Tua. Okay, well, he's fine. He looked really good yesterday. The touch on his passes, I think, were something that has taken a step forward. That touchdown pass to Tyreek Hill at the end of the game that ultimately won them the game. I mean, he throws it in a penny-sized window that gets to Hill. It's a touchdown. 466 yards. He did have a pick, but he bounced back from it really well. 3 touchdowns, just constantly making plays. And when you are in a game like that, where you know it's going to be a shootout with him and Justin Herbert, you need a guy who can do that and be efficient. And Tua was efficient. And Tyreek Hill was up to his usual shenanigans, getting a lot of yak. But as long as Tua is healthy, you know that he's going to make the right decisions. You know, he's not going to force anything that he shouldn't. And, you know, he's going to enlarge, put you in a good position to win. So tip of the cap to Tua Tagovailoa, tip of the cap to the Miami Dolphins. Yeah, good job, Tua. In terms of the worst quarterback performance I saw this weekend, oh, goodness gracious.
You just saw it. What do you mean? You just saw it. You just watched it.
We did just see it.
Was that the worst? Was Wilson the worst?
No.
Oh.
Josh Allen was the worst quarterback of the week.
Was Josh Allen really the worst quarterback this week?
Oh, yeah.
He threw a pick 6 to lose the game.
Well, not to lose. That wasn't a pick 6 to lose the game.
He gave
There's a
special teams punt tip.
This is my biggest
qualm with lost the game.
And it's been the biggest qualm with Josh Allen for a while. This is my biggest qualm with Josh Allen is the fact that there will be wide open layups. There will be a wide open outlet pass. And he just wants to do full court alley-oops all game long. It does not matter. I would defend Josh Allen to the ends of the earth. But tonight was ungodly unnecessary. 2 bomb interceptions, one near the goal line, one in the end zone to Jordan Whitehead. And then the third one to Whitehead, he throws it into double coverage to, I believe, Gabe Davis. He has Dalton Kincaid wide open, right? Wide open in the flat. There was no reason to throw that. And then an egregious fumble to set the Jets up to take the lead. 4 turnovers, 3 of them that were very preventable.
Is this just Josh Allen, or can he fix this? Is this something you just have to live with, or is this just
this is just Josh Allen? I think this is just Josh Allen. This is, you take the good with the bad. Sometimes
it'll be worse.
I will say it hasn't gotten this bad since like 2018. Like this, it hasn't been this bad in a minute. But it just was really bad. I think Josh Allen is the Zoomies if it was an NFL quarterback. Like sometimes, like, hey man, I get why you're doing this, but you don't have to do this. Like the third interception Jarrett talked about. I think on the Manning cast they said, like, yeah, Gabe Davis kind of runs a bad route. But either way, it's 3rd and 2. You only need 2 yards. You don't have to force this throw. You don't have to try and make the trick shot every time. You can just do the easy stuff. You can just chill out. You don't have to be on 100 all the time. But that's the Josh Allen thing, you know? Josh Allen's going to throw it deep. The first interception was kind of like an arm punt. It was like 3rd and 17, and it ended up like they were on like the 2-yard line. The second one was really bad. That was dumb. He was getting pressured, but it was really dumb. You don't have to – when you're getting pressured, you don't just chuck it up down the middle of the field. That's just something that you cannot do. But it really did just look like a mix of a lot of bad things for the Bills offense. I'm not trying to overreact here because it is week 1, but the offensive line gave up a lot of pressure to a Jets defensive line that, of course, is one of the best in the league. There was a lot of James Cook today. Really weird. A lot of James Cook. I mean, like, he was getting a lot of touches. It felt like he
did well with those touches.
I mean, it was fine, but
the way they were talking about James Cook was wild.
You don't want James Cook to be like the feature point of your offense, you know? And I think a lot of that kind of was like, they also couldn't really run the ball in the second half. They kept doing this little sprint draw play where Josh Allen would run one way and then hand the ball off to James Cook, and it never worked. Like, but they kept going to. They went to it on the second down, 2nd and 15 in overtime. They did the little sprint draw, and it got 2 yards. First of all, running a draw play on 2nd and 15, you are a coward. Second of all, don't run that play ever again. Burn it. Take it out the playbook. It's just a mix of a lot of bad things, and Josh Allen was probably the worst of them. Like, dog, you can just chill out sometimes. Like, the touchdown was what we all know and love Josh Allen for, but you got to take the good with the bad.
Do we think it's time for panic? Is it a Dable to Ken Dorsey thing? Have y'all noticed any of that, or like, do you think any of this regression happens?
I think Ken Dorsey's fine. I think he's a fine play caller. I just don't think they have the dudes. I don't think they have the protection up front. And, they keep investing and investing and investing in this offensive line, but none of these things have actually worked out. Osiris Torrance, of course, first game as a rookie, looked really bad going against Quinnen Williams. That makes sense because it's Quinnen Williams. But Spencer Brown looked bad when he wasn't getting into fights. Like, the whole offensive line just was not playing very well. And it was weird because they looked pretty fine in the run game in the first half, which is something that you wanted to see from this Bills team. But then everything just fell apart. And it felt like you went back to Josh Allen save us, but Josh Allen was clearly not in save us mode. Like I said it on Twitter, Josh Allen plays like he's in Minecraft creative mode, and sometimes he'll just create a bomb and you'll die. So that's what happened today. Josh Allen created a bomb and the Bills lost.
This was like, we talk about like the Kirk scale, like extreme good Kirk, extreme bad Kirk. On the Josh Allen scale, I mean, this is ground zero. This is awful. And that is your bare minimum. You're not going to get a good Josh Allen day. There are some games. There are some games where he goes balls to the wall and it just constantly works. This was the polar opposite of that, unfortunately.
It is pretty crazy. By the way, Mike's good. No, bad.
No, you're good.
Okay. It is pretty crazy to me that Josh Allen goes from being talked about as like the most elite quarterback in the NFL to a game like this. Like, we have to also remember how many interceptions he threw last year. As much as we give Dak crap, he was right there neck and neck for throwing interceptions. And now he comes out and throws 3 interceptions to lose in overtime. Like, I'm not saying he's on the watch, but like, can't be called elite if you're doing that.
Josh Allen's still one of the bare minimum 5 best quarterbacks in the world. The thing with the interceptions, though, is, you're going to have games like this, but you're going to live with those because he's going to make, more often than not, 5-6 plays with his arm that only a few guys in the world can. But it's a live by the sword, die by the sword type situation. And it's just kind of what you got to deal with. And such is life when you've got an elite quarterback, but this is kind of his way of playing ball. It's street ball 100% of the time. It's Dragula by Rob Zombie playing in his headphones throughout the entire 60 minutes of the game. And he's going to go balls to the wall. They need to find some way to get through to him to tone it down a little bit, but that's always going to be Josh Allen.
It doesn't even have to be like you're turning him into check down Charlie. Like,
no,
he
doesn't need to be right now with Justin Herbert right now.
Right now, it's 50-50. Like, hey, sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. Maybe if you get it to like 60-40 or like 65-35, you can live with that. 70-30, like, come on, we're dealing with a really good quarterback here. But he needs someone to be like, hey, this is stupid. Don't do that again. Even though it worked, don't do that again. And I think that's kind of what Brandon Daboll was.
Mm-hmm.
And to an extent, that's kind of where, like, schematically, I think Ken Dorsey's fine. But whatever's going on with, like, Josh Allen being like, yeah, man, I'm just going to do this because I think I can. Like, sometimes you just be like, nah, man, don't do this.
You just need, like, a Daboll who will get up in his face and be like, this is not happening again. Like, because we saw Daboll run it by and get in dude. Like, it's just different. Like, he might just need that guy. Or he needed it for a couple of years longer to build those habits over the long term. And then you need it. Because I think, how long did he end up having Brian Daboll? Was it 2 years or 1?
2 years.
2. Okay. Evan, the Rams and the Raiders both won. Jimmy Garoppolo and Matt Stafford both 1-0. This was a question I wrote specifically designed for you. Who is more likely to build off this 1-0 start and turn this into one of the surprise positive NFL stories in 2023? The Rams or the Raiders?
I definitely think it's going to be the Raiders, but it's hard to answer that question because I only think what the Raiders did and will exist in the regular season. But Jimmy just wins football games. And I think that's a great example. We saw prime Jimmy this week, right? We saw,
including the injury,
dink and dunks, an injury scare that he came back in, 100 and however many yards, like, and still won the game. Like, it was prime Jimmy in full force. And I think the Rams are just a house of cards. I don't expect Seattle to be that bad this year. I do think this is one of those week 1 games where, like, we look back and kind of laugh on what happened. I will say though, the Rams had an interesting situation, right? You kind of looked at what happened and it was like, did they have a Cooper Kupp replacement? Like, do they have a running back that they can actually like lean on like consistently? Stafford looked good. He had that one throw that everyone keeps talking about to the right. That was a beautiful throw.
It was a very nice throw.
It was a great throw. But I'm more interested in what's going on with the Seahawks long term. Like for me, I want to know, like, is Geno Smith, 112 yards passing. No one was expecting
against a defense where you can name one player.
Right.
On
That's
that
what I'm
defense.
I hate to do this, but
Is it Byron Young?
they did the Seahawks did lose both their top tackles in this game. Abe Lucas went out and Charles Cross went out. Charles Cross is probably going out for a long time, which very underrated portion of last year with the Seahawks. Charles Cross played phenomenally as a rookie, as well as Abraham Lucas. So losing both of those guys in the same game is rough. Losing those guys in the same game going against Aaron Donald might be even rougher. And that's really my biggest takeaway from that game is Aaron Donald is the best defensive player I've ever seen play football.
Can we talk about the Geno Smith being caught in the live mic where he just says, "Oh my God"?
Yeah. It was like the most real moment ever. Like the most, oh my God, he really liked me for real.
He quickly reminded people why he is the best defensive player in football. Like you just don't find many guys like Aaron Donald. And he went into takeover mode, and that's what happens, when you lose both your top tackles on an offensive line that was already, especially an interior offensive line that was questionable at best. That happens. I think Matt Stafford still might kind of have it. I don't know if it's like enough for it to be like a real like 2021 Matt Stafford playoff run. I don't think he has enough to do that, but he has.
Is he like the sixth best quarterback in the NFL this year?
I don't know if he's six.
You guys, real quick though, Bobby Wagner, that poor old man had 19 tackles. That man was
he was hustling.
Oh.
And the sad part is, if you look at Matthew Stafford's spray chart from the game, you knew exactly where Bobby Wagner was, because that's exactly where Matthew Stafford was throwing the ball. Like
he knows Bobby Wagner.
He does. He knows exactly what he can't do, which is cover people at this point.
Also, Matt Stafford deserves credit for really finding the Puka with no Cooper Kupp in this one, no real receivers, and Matt Stafford didn't really seem phased. I think Stafford deserves more credit for doing more with less when he's healthy.
Real ones knew about Puka Nacua.
That's true. Real ones did know. Cam Akers, an unbelievable stat. He's going to have a game where he has like 23 carries and 18 yards. Like Cam Akers' stats are a box score delight every week, where I don't understand it. He's going to be one of those guys where his career's over. When we look at his box scores from years every year, and we're like, Cam Akers may have been sneaky the worst running back in a really long time. He was like Trent Richardson without the fame, where he's going to average 0.9 yards per carry for his entire career, and he's going to get so many of them.
Can I make two very fun recommendations or possibilities? They probably won't happen. This would be a good, probably not, but what if?
Yeah.
I got two of them. All right. So this both pertains to quarterbacks, potentially with the New York Jets. I've got two of them. One of them, Kirk Cousins. The other one, it would take a few weeks. It wouldn't happen right now, but maybe like by like week 3, especially if they start looking the way that we expect them to. What if Matthew Stafford?
I think you got to ride it out with the Rams, because I think the Rams are going to be in it. If Stafford's healthy, the Rams are going to fight for the wild card, and they're not tearing it down.
Does Matt Stafford end up going and becoming the Deion Sanders, the Darrelle Revis? He's just a bounty hunter.
Also, that's a lot of money on the books still for 1 year of Matt Stafford and 1 year of Kirk Cousins. I get like trying to go all in and win the Super Bowl this year, but it's still a lot of money on the books. And Aaron Rodgers plans on being back next year, so and Matthew Stafford's contract isn't one where like he's a free agent after this year. So like now you're stuck with two quarterbacks that are damn near 40 and Zach Wilson. So,
I'm surprised that Jarrett didn't go with the obvious here as the just throw crap at the wall here.
What was
It's
the
Carson
offense?
Wentz.
Oh,
Carson
No,
Wentz
no,
is
no,
just
don't-
sitting there.
Don't worry. I already tweeted it earlier. I tweeted
you're
it
gonna
earlier,
make
so
me
Okay.
don't
say
worry.
so many mean things about this man on this podcast. I try not to be mean to Carson Wentz, but you put Carson Wentz, Zach Wilson, Aaron Rodgers in the same room. That's the most
That is a
conservative.
nightmare blunt rotation.
That's the most conservative room since since we saw the sweet box at El Assico yesterday on Saturday. You don't want to do that. Get Carson Wentz the hell off my TV screen. If I see Carson Wentz playing quarterback in real live football games, I want Joe Douglas fired.
I want to say this. There is no good option for the Jets. I really believe that. I don't think there is. No, I mean,
JP, if you say what I think you're about to say,
let's get real stupid. New York Jets quarterback Jameis Winston.
You mother.
Let's roll. Let's rock and roll.
I don't actually hate this.
He's the best option you got.
He is the best option.
No, he's not.
No,
JP.
you know who actually is? I like Jameis. The all-time great feel-good story. Send Gino back to New York.
For what?
But yeah, they don't have a quarterback.
But I'm saying if the Seahawks are bad, they don't have money tied up to Gino after this year. He can be a free agent after this year, right?
If the Seahawks are bad, though, I think it's going to be because Geno Smith became Geno Smith again.
Or the offensive line, like JP alluded to,
I
fell
don't
apart.
see. I don't see them. I don't see anybody trading their starting quarterback midseason, unless they're that. And like, it's just not likely.
Russell Wilson.
How about this? America's quarterback, Dorian Thompson-Robinson.
They're not getting rid of him.
So,
there's no way they're getting rid of him.
I get it, but then their backup is Kellen Mond, and Deshaun Watson does have a little
He's
bit of
not
it.
good.
And Deshaun Watson doesn't look great.
Also, Deshaun Watson has a little bit of an injury history in terms of like knee problems. I'd keep DTR around for a little bit. Who else?
I think Mitch
is
Trubisky
out
or
there?
Mason Rudolph would be options. The Steelers got two quality backups they could probably afford to send.
Oh, Ryan Tannehill's an option.
He could be. Yeah.
Yuck.
It's a yuck, but it's like a better than nothing.
But
He's better than Zach Wilson.
I also think the Titans are going to be tricked into thinking like, hey, we can win a lot of games this year because they hung with the Saints.
I don't know if you watch that offense.
And
That offense
the
looks
battle
Tannehill.
the battle of Stalingrad that was that game.
Any Saints fan who came out of that one thinking we're all right, I don't understand.
So I will understand because the defense played awesome.
Great, the Falcons defense played better.
Shut up. The problem is the Saints offense did not look great. Derek Carr looked like Derek Carr, which is a problem because you were expecting Derek Carr to look like not Derek Carr.
Yeah. Okay. Jarrett. I thought this would be fun for you. Team who looks completely different than a year ago. Who is the team for you that looks completely different that you watched over the weekend that looked based on what you saw all of last year? Who looks like a completely different team?
Completely different team. I mean, there's a handful that I could say look the exact same for all the wrong reasons, but
I think I'm going to get to one soon.
I have like
ask his next question.
I don't know. Like I think the Giants just looked putrid, awful, and like I expected them to look bad, and I expected them to be bad, but I didn't expect it to be 40-0 bad. And I tried telling all of you, Daniel Jones is mid.
First thing I
there
thought
was
about.
nothing great about. There was nothing great about them when. Like coming into the season, I didn't look at them and say, "Oh yeah, they'll be back in the playoffs." I said, "Oh yeah, 6-7 wins. Daniel Jones will take a step back, and if week one is a teller of anything, they're not going to be good." It didn't matter that they brought back Saquon Barkley. Darren Waller wasn't really much of a factor. Defense didn't have any sort of resistance to what the Cowboys were doing. Giants are bad. That's my takeaway from all of that.
Kadarius Toney just all over the place over the weekend with the Giants and the Chiefs. Rough weekend. Rough 72 hours for Kadarius Toney on Twitter and social media and everything else. Who is your answer here, Evan? Because you said somebody jumped immediately to mind. Was it the Giants or was it somebody else?
Bengals.
Oh.
Yeah.
The Bengals scored 3 points in a game against the Browns.
Was that one we just tossed out? You talk about the Niners-Bears game a lot last year was the monsoon. Like that game's on in the corner. It looked like just an absolute slop. Just what are we doing here? Can we really pull anything from these kind of conditions?
You would say that if Joe Burrow wasn't pressured at the 5th highest rate in his entire career in that game. Like that is
the
a
line
major
still stinks,
problem.
man.
Like Orlando Brown could not do anything as Myles Garrett. Again, it's Myles Garrett.
Myles, we need to talk about that. Myles Garrett quite literally did a Hesse. Like not like it was like in the moment. He was doing it back and forth.
The coolest thing
he
ever.
was telling him to his face. He's like, I'm going to do this.
That was the equivalent of like LeBron on the wing on like calling the ISO. He's like, hey, give me the ball. Give me the ball. You see him do the post up. You know the meme.
Hold the ball out.
Yeah, he's doing the Jordan palm the ball. Like he's calling ISO against this poor center. As soon as Myles Garrett starts doing the little hezzy crossover thing, I bet he shit his pants. That is the scariest thing
Has he done that before, or did he do that for the first time yesterday?
That's his first time.
Okay.
But he does do this kind of like, it looks like an NBA Euro step. It's it's his best pass rush move. He killed the Bengals with it on Sunday, where he just like he Euro steps in and out, and he's so fast and so strong and so athletic that it does not matter who you have in front of him when he does that.
I like it. JP, this is right up your alley, I thought. Thank you for not coaching. Who wins that award?
Come on.
Who is it?
It's Brandon Staley.
Absolutely.
I'm calling ISO here. I'm going Michael Jordan palming the ball here. Brandon Staley. All right, listen up. So
I need him gone.
Last year, he said, like, I don't want to I'm cool with giving up 4 and 5 yard runs if we don't give up 40-yard passes. Congratulations, buddy. You did both. Like, it's a really bad thing when you look at last year when these two teams played. You didn't have Joey Bosa. You didn't have Khalil Mack. You didn't have J.C. Jackson. And you shut down that same Miami Dolphins offense. You had all those guys, and you gave up 36 points. In the game, you scored 34. You scored 34 points and have one of the most efficient rushing games ever. You should win that game. He's no
defensive
longer
coach.
You're a defensive genius. Remember, he is the wonder kid. He was supposed to be the next evolution of the NFL defense. And now you're getting your ass handed to you multiple times over. It's not only getting your ass handed to you. It is nobody seems to be in a good position. The passing game looks so out of sync. Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa did not have a sack on Sunday. That's bad. That is real bad news for this team. I'm going to say the same thing I said with Arthur Smith. You need to figure it the fuck out, man. This is a team that was supposed to be like not only playoff, but this is a Super Bowl team. You're supposed to be going for the Super Bowl when you have a quarterback like Justin Herbert. And you're sitting here struggling to defend simple passes and simple motions. Like this is the same thing that you saw last year that you shut down, and now you can't defend it at all. It is really bad. I'm
going to call Child Protective Services for Justin Herbert. It's not fair. Like he doesn't deserve this. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. He's got a defensive-minded head coach. He's got all these defensive fucking players. Like he literally has. They trade for Khalil Mack. They trade for JC, or they signed JC Jackson. They already have Bosa and signed him to a long-term contract. It's like what? Like we say this all the time. Like what more do you need? But I'm saying it for the coach. What more do you need? Like at any given point, the defense has been what's most suspect about this team. Constantly, Justin Herbert is putting up points on the board just to lose. Like, get rid of him.
They ran for 234 yards and lost the football game. That doesn't happen. Like, literally, if you look at the stats of overall rushing efficiency and rushing yards in the last decade, everybody won their game except the Chargers. If that ain't the most Chargers thing ever,
it is. Like
that's at that point, it's on Brandon Staley. You have to be a better coach. You're supposed to be the defensive mastermind.
And
go ahead.
And not to mention, like, at the end of the first half, it's tied at 17. Dolphins, 2 seconds left. Tua launches a ball downfield to Jalen Waddle, and J.C. Jackson just European uppercuts a guy from behind, and every ref on the field threw the flag like, yeah, that's pass interference. Okay. And then the Dolphins kick a field goal, go into halftime up 20-17. The Chargers
in a
lose by
game that
2.
they won by 2. Like that swing of events probably cost you the game. J.C. Jackson probably cost you the game multiple times. He had the interception, and guess what he did? He ran out of the end zone, put the Chargers on the 2. They ended up punting, and the Dolphins scored. Like, this is not a – you spent so much money, so much investing in this defense. You would put a defensive head coach. You're supposed to be the mastermind. They gave you everything you're supposed to have to make one of the best defenses in the NFL, and you can't stop the run or stop the pass. This is on you. Like, you better figure this out. You can't go from collapsing in the second half against the Jaguars in the playoffs and saying, hey, we're a better team than this, we'll figure it out, to doing what they did on Sunday. Like, those two things don't happen?
What if you recall, the Chargers did introduce AI fans at this particular game over the weekend. What if Brandon Staley was actually fired this offseason and we just saw game 1, Brandon Staley AI, and that's the issue? What if that was an AI version making plays that they thought Brandon Staley would make?
That's just a matter of LA not being able to fill seats.
I want that AI taken back to the developer because it absolutely sucked. Yep. It does not need to be put out anymore. Look, man, I said going into this year, Brandon Staley was going to have the most pressure on him outside of maybe a couple of head coaches in the league. It's not looking great.
I just feel like Dean Spanos is one of those guys who keeps guys for a really long time. Norv Turner, Marty Schottenheimer. Has he ever had a quick hook? Y'all would maybe know better than me here. What was the earliest he's fired a coach?
You can't lose the way they did in the playoffs, then come back around, and not only can you not stop the run, but you can't stop the pass. And the craziest quote coming from that game, and the only reason the Dolphins had 70 yards is because they only had to run the ball 13 times because they were just throwing the ball everywhere. And at the end of the game, Sebastian Joseph Day is asked, like, hey, do you think the defense can improve? Do you think the defense can play better? And he's like, how many rushing yards did we give up? Sure, man. Congrats. Mission accomplished. You gave up 70 yards and gave up 490,000 through the air. And oh, yeah, you lost the game. In a game where you scored 34 points and ran for 234 yards. This is on Brandon Staley at this point.
Well, this is year 3, and you know what's interesting too? Anthony Lynn, who got 3 years as the previous head coach of the Chargers, he went 34-32. Right now, Brandon Staley's 19-16, so just about identical to what you had with the previous coach.
Look, man, I've kind of been on this road since like the middle of year 1 for Brandon Staley, but going into it now, like, he might be the most overrated head coach in the NFL. Like, the defenses never look good. Like, that's a problem.
Well,
I don't even know if we can call him overrated anymore because I feel like everybody else is starting to like come around and be like, oh yeah, he's not fit for the job.
Like, yeah. Sure, but I also think they're still like, oh, well, he's a great defensive mind, which is he? Like, that's still coming into being an issue because the year before you can't stop the run. Now you can't adjust. You can't adjust and can't stop the pass. You can't be bad at both. If you're bad at both, that means you get fired.
Well, there you go. We'll leave it there, gentlemen. Jarrett, what can the good folks check out from you across the internet this week?
Power rankings on USA Today will be out by the time this podcast is out, so go listen, go watch, let me try that again. Go read those. It is late as we are recording this, and I am a sleepy boy. So go read the power rankings on USA Today. Go read winners and losers on USA Today, and then quarterback rankings as well. I'm behind the steel curtain. I imagine Josh Allen will be moving down a few pegs after the performance we saw tonight. So go and read those. I'm, like I said, in the power rankings, I reference metal music and the new number 1 team. I compare their game to Brock Lesnar and Ricochet at Super Showdown in 2020. So wrestling and metal music and football, that's everything I want in life. So go read the power rankings.
I love it. JP, what about you and the team over at SBNation.com?
SB Nation, we got some really cool stuff coming out, college football and NFL wise. We started back up Establish the Fun over this past weekend. This Friday, we'll be back again. We'll have Establish the Fun every Friday for you around 10 in the morning. So you wake up with a fresh, hot Establish the Fun at your face. So be on the lookout for that. We'll be doing some pretty cool analysis of things I just see around the NFL that I think are pretty cool, things I see in college football that are pretty cool. So just follow me on Twitter and follow on for the ride. See what I'm doing.
Evan, what about you? What advice do you have for the good folks as we're walking out? Go to emo shows. Follow you on Twitter at Evan Sowards. What words of wisdom can you leave us with tonight?
I think you should go ahead and leave a 5-star review first and foremost. We haven't talked about that in a long time. By the way, how many are you at?
Reviews? I meant let me pull that up.
Because I feel like we've been talking about this for a very long time. So my big thing is I'm kind of wondering what that number better be high because we've been talking about this for a long time.
538.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good for reviews. So go ahead and let's go ahead and add to that. Let's get to 550.
Yeah.
549 would be great because the 49ers.
I like that.
Follow me at evanswords.com. You can check out my TikTok where I've got viral Milo TikToks going off right now as we speak. It's great. He's a psychopath. That's all. Yeah, go Niners.
There you go. Go all of our teams. We don't play each other next week, so no house divided on this very program. So no Niners, Steelers.
I'm rooting for the Steelers next week just out of pity. They need it.
I'm a Penn State fan, so beat Illinois.
There you go.
That shouldn't be that hard. Illinois is not very good. And I get to just hold on to my butts with the Packers and the Gators this weekend for the Falcons and the Vols. There you go. JP, Jarrett, Evan, always a pleasure. And I'll talk to y'all next week.